We're blessed to have with us today in our interview Noor Hok. This is not her real name, but we're using another name because she still has family in Pakistan, and they could be in danger. But Noor Hok is an evangelist and a missionary in the United States, and we're blessed to have her with us. Noor Hok, what were your earliest years like growing up in Pakistan?
I was born in a small city in Pakistan, Punjab. Both my parents were Methodist church members, and my grandfather was the one who accepted Christ.
What was it like, the place where you grew up, and how and when did you become a Christian?
I was born to a Christian family, so I was baptized. So I'm Christian from my childhood. And my parents are also Christian from their childhood. It was our grandparents who came to Christ. And they were changed when it was British was still ruling in India. It was India, there was no Pakistan at that time.
What attracted your grandfather to Christianity?
He was working in British Army, and he met with a Christian man in there. He was not evangelist or not a pastor, just a regular military man. He was a doctor, and my grandfather was a medical orderly, like they call them male nurse also, but technically they were just helping in the mission, in the battlefields. And that Major John was the reason to introduce my grandfather to Christ.
What was it about Major John that attracted him?
As my grandfather always told us, that this man was totally different. He feel it, that he was very devout Christian. He was very kind. He was very loving to all the people, not to one. I mean, he was loving to Hindus, Muslims, and Sikh. And he was kind of man that my grandfather thought that he's an ideal man if you look at just a normal social life of a person. And when he already knew that he's Christian because he was British white-skinned person in India.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he was attracted by his kindness, by his love. But what was it like growing up as a Christian in your village?
No, it was actually a big city. It was not even a village. And it was our most Christian big villages were around that city. It was heavily populated Muslim where we were living. My father was a government officer, and most of the people who lives in that community, which is called colonies, like Wafda colony, the power and those kind of government institutions. So they make colonies and they keep their employees at one place. And the colony where we were living, it was all populated with Muslims. We were the only Christian family on that street.
How were you treated as the only Christian?
Some people were good to my mother, and that's what I most of the time know. But my father was in office, so we don't know much how he was treated. But my mother was neighboring women, some were very kind, very loving towards her, but most of the people, they didn't like the fact, because that time some people will not even like to eat in the same plate or glass where Christians are eating. It was a different life that time when we were growing up. I'm talking about early 70s. I was born mid 60s, and I'm talking about early 70s when I'm in grade 1 or 2. This is what I'm experiencing, that they are not very welcoming, some people, and some people even hate you.
What was it like for being a child in the school where the majority of children were Muslims?
Unless they know that you're Christian, and in Pakistan at that time the teachers will take a roll call every morning. So when my teacher will call Ali, Hamza and all those names, and children will say, yes ma'am, that means you are present in the class. And my name, as it was a Christian, so when my teacher called my name and she called me wrong, so I said, no, this is not how it is, it sounds like this. And she really punished me that day, and I still remember that insult, that rejection, you can say, and the children started laughing at me. And as soon as the children, little children, we were like in grade 1 or 2, we are like around 5-6 years old, and they started behaving differently. Today I'm not even accepted in the same group to play because I'm a Christian child, and they don't want to play with this paleed or unclean or unholy child. But at the same time, a couple of children will come and sit with you. Mm-hmm. When my mother gave, it was summer, and we happened to have a water cooler which has some ice and cold water. So the lady asked my mother, seeing that my mother is serving us with that cold water, she said, "Can I have some cold water also?" And it was summer vacation time. My mother was taking us to another city to meet with her family.
This was on a train?
On a train. And my mother just simply poured the water in the cup and gave it to this lady. And she'd drink it from the same cup that we were drinking. That was the only cup in the cooler. And she said, "So where you go, what is your caste?" Not really caste system. She asked that what kind of denomination. I don't know how to properly say it. Because people are called Araim, people are called Rajput, and different
classes of
this
Muslims.
Different classes or caste.
And
my mother said, "I don't belong to anything. I belong to Jesus Christ. I'm Christian." Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden this woman flared up. She threw away that cup and she said, "How dare you to give me water in the same cup that you unclean, plead people, you drink?" Mm-hmm. And my mother was like, "Sister, you asked for that. Mm-hmm. You asked for water. But she said, "But you didn't tell me that you are Christian." Because my mother was very light-skinned. And in Pakistan, there's another idea behind that. People think that whoever is low class, because they are very dark-skinned, they are in labor and all that. Mm-hmm. So they look Christians because they are mostly sweepers. Mm-hmm. The people who were converted from Muslim caste, they are light-skinned. Mostly people who are converted from Hindus to Christianity, they were dark-skinned. Because Muslims are very light-skinned in Southeast Asia. So anybody sees my mother will think she's Iranian, not Pakistani. So she thought that she's Muslim because of her light skin, and her children are also light skinned.
And she rejected you because you were Christians.
Yes. I truly believe everybody can come to a faith where love and kindness is, which is my faith in Christian and Christ as my Savior.
When did you first begin to be involved in public Christian ministry?
In Pakistan, when we were growing up, it was like people didn't like Christians. There were certain things, but still you were doing all right. We had Christian schools, we had Christian colleges and medical institutions. To me, really the changing point was when government started taking the Christian schools and hospitals and all that. So we no longer can study Bible in school. And I was in 10th grade that time.
This was in the, 1980s?
No, it was late 1970s. It was around 77 or 78, if I remember it correctly. Actually, I was in 8th grade then, yes.
And the government began to take away the schools from the Christians.
Yes. Technically, they didn't want the Christian theology be read there anymore. When we were in the school, Bible study used to be a subject. So it's like if you pass your English, math, science subjects, you have to pass Bible study exam also. And if you don't pass, then you will not be promoted to next class. So it's your subject. And all the Muslim children who were our class fellows, they read Bible without any problem. They have no problem with that.
Until 1978.
Until 1970s, yeah. Mm-hmm. Late 70s.
And the government just took the hospitals, took the schools?
To me, it seemed like overnight. Maybe I was not aware of politics and news before, if there was anything. We just knew like maybe a couple days before that, and then all of a sudden we know that the Christian schools, they had a lot of properties in main areas, like where the real estate is very expensive. There were many children, there were Muslim teachers also in those schools. And most of the time the school will be attached with a boarding house, especially for the girls. And there was another reason, the poor Christians who cannot send their children to schools from the villages and all that area, they can send them to in that boarding house where missionaries like you, I mean, for me, saying missionary like you, people from white skin, they might be Europeans, they were Canadians, they were Americans. So they will bring support for those boarding houses, and they technically served us in there. They were serving us.
And then what happened after the government took over?
So when government took over, they separated school and boarding houses because government didn't want to take the boarding house, or maybe, I don't know what was the deal. But schools were taken and the Bible study was abandoned in the schools. You no more can do Bible study. Muslim children will be able to read Islamiyat, and Christian children has to read a subject which was called Mutaliya Pakistan. That technically means study of Pakistan, about the history of Pakistan, and some ethical lessons. But I decided not to read that. I decided to read Islamiyat because again it's going to put me in the minority. All my friends will be sitting in Islamiyat class who are Muslims who want to read Islamiyat, and I will be go to another class where all the Christian children will be. Most of the Christian children eventually they adopted Islamiyat.
Did you at any time think you would become a Muslim?
Not in a way. When it was my childhood, I was thinking not this way, but I always asked my parents, why you are Christians? Why people hate you? Why people hate me? When they call me, the children will not play with me or something. And as I was growing up, getting mature, by the end of my high school, I was thinking when I started reading Islamiyat also, now I can see black and white. And I said, I will find out why I'm Christian, why I'm not a Muslim like my other friends. What is wrong being two different faiths? And there was a point of time when I was thinking, well, if I will be discriminated. Why not to become what majority is? But we are rooted real deep in our faith. Our parents were very faithful to their faith. And then when you read it yourself, eventually in my late 20s, I will become a real Christian. You can say a real Christian where you accept Jesus Christ in your heart, not by baptism, but with your own choice. You can call him as your Savior.
When did you come to the United States? How did that happen?
It was, I will say, around late 90s or early 2000. Before 9/11 happened, I was here. I cannot give the same exact timings or when I came in. And that was the time in the 90s, back there in late 90s or early 2000. We lived in this small town, which is all mostly white town, and we didn't happen to see Muslims or other faiths here in America. So we were really enjoying our life here with the three little children. We were here.
What happened after 9/11, though?
9/11 was a time when I really think that told me, okay, the things are changing here also. My son had a school, in his school he has a child brought from Pakistan. His parents moved in here. They bought a gas station and this little child came to school. Cannot speak a word of English. And in our town, as I said, it's all white town. There are no other people from other ethnicities. Sometimes you see African Americans or Hispanics, but not people from my country. And somehow the teacher of my son, she knew that my son his parents speak the same language. So she came and he asked him, she said, can you speak this language from Pakistan? And he said, yes, my mom and dad speak that. And he helped this Muslim child. And my son was so excited that he saw somebody from where his parents come. So it's going to be a new world for him. He's excited, happy. He doesn't want to leave that little child. He wanted to bring him in with us in the car. And he was in 6th grade that time.
And what happened then?
And that child, as soon as when the 9/11 happens, the other children came to know that he is Muslim. At least they know he's Pakistani. And till today, I'm kind of surprised how those little American children knew that he's Muslim. I thought in America nobody will call you like you are Christian, you are Muslim. It's all liberal world. There is a freedom. And my son came and he said, "Mom, the other kids didn't like Nafis. And I don't like it. They were calling him that he's Muslim. He should not be in our school because they attacked on our country." And that was the moment when I was thinking, okay, so again we are going to become victims of negative approach to other religions like they did with us in Pakistan.
So as immigrants from Pakistan, now you were afraid that you would be stereotyped and that there would be negative effects because you were from Pakistan. Did that happen? Did it actually happen?
Not so much so that I was afraid about me. We were living in this town for so long before Nafis comes in school.
So people knew you already?
Yeah, people knew we are Christians. That was not the reason. The reason was that is Nafis going to deal with the same childhood that I dealt with? It was a human passion that I had for him. And talking to my son, you might be reading it in my coming book, how I felt at that time. Love and hate at the same time, you are struggling through. Would you love a Muslim neighbor or would you not? And I was going through that battle also. But I wanted to make a change here.
So what did you do?
I got started getting involved in Bible studies in my church because when I came to United States, I promised my family that I will not be involved in real time human rights kind of deal. In Pakistan we call it, because we were Christians. And I will focus on my children to bring them up. But here something is happening which is affecting my child. He's asking me questions. What is Muslim? Why they hate Muslims? And I was asking the same question to my mother. Why we are Christian? Why they hate us? So the word hate was really a trigger point for me. And then I joined a main denomination church in America. And I told them I have these skills. I have done my comparative religion courses in Pakistan and I'm very well versed with that. I can approach other religions with love and kindness, and at the same time we can teach to American church also what is the difference between religions.
How did that work?
First, I will say even some Americans will not accept us. I mean, most of them, they didn't even knew that there are Christians in Pakistan. And if they know that you are Christian, they still will be doubting because you are coming from a Muslim world. So they think you are just trying to get their attention or are hiding under this disguise of Christianity. And only people from church, they know that we are regular Christians and everything.
That must have been painful for you.
It was. And when I started working with this church, I decided I will strictly be focused on other religions in the church. Even when the 9/11 happened, even till today, I never ever heard one single negative thing from a pastor's mouth. I mean, the congregation can be whichever different way. There are thousands of members in your church. They have their own opinion. But our pastors from the pulpit, they never said that we should hate Muslims or we should get them out of here. They always say we love Muslims and we want to reach them.
What do you think your life would have been like if you had stayed in Pakistan and not left and come to the United States?
I don't know if I will be alive today or not, really, to tell you the truth, because I was really involved in, you can say, human rights kind of deal, because when they were killing Christians for blasphemy, in our childhood they will not eat or drink with you, but now it started getting to another extreme that they start killing Christians in the name of blasphemy. And whoever can come and can say, okay, you said this negative word about their Prophet Muhammad or Quran or their faith, and they can kill you. And this is not right. even in Quran, I mean, what kind of Muslims they claim they are when their own prophet went through extreme insult from the hands of Jewish people, and he never said to kill them? There were people who were really disrespectful towards mosque that time when the religion was starting, Islam. And they did disgusting things to mosque and to Islam and to those people. They didn't kill that time. So from where this trend came in? Because whatever your imam tells you, if he tells you, okay, if you find a Christian who says a negative word, just go kill them. And that involved me in human rights. Human rights took me to the streets. Streets took me to the media and to the newspapers and all that. So that was the reason I left Pakistan eventually.
You were in danger in
Yeah.
Pakistan for your human
Yeah.
rights advocacy.
Yeah. And still if I go back, I still have to cover myself. I cannot release my identity.
What advice would you have to somebody who was going to start a new mission, somebody from another country, whether it was Africa, Asia, Latin America, or the Middle East? What advice would you give them?
Esther, there are many people who want to become missionary from the persecuted world. Let's say, call it persecuted world. It is literally. The Christians who come from there, they have that passion, sharing faith. The problem is this: mostly immigrants are poor people because they are starting from very basic life here. They struggle with their finances to make it for life. So my advice really is not for them, but my advice is really for the church. If you really a mission-oriented church, please find out one person from any other language, from any other ethnicity who is real Christian, bring them to church, hire them as full-time missionaries, and see how God is working. Because it said in the Word of God also, bring it to the storehouse, and let the storehouse take the care of the missions. And if really we are mission-minded here, then we should adopt those missionaries. One missionary per church.
Thank you. Thank you, Noor Hok, for being with us today.
Thank you, Pastor.